then going to record this session so that I can share it with few folks. So it's a very, 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 very difficult concept, but at the same time, once you understand, there are a lot of things become very clear about life, about spiritual life, about how we should approach. So those are the things we'll try to answer today. And please interrupt me wherever you have questions or any comments, anything you want to share. So with that, we can get started. Let me share my screen. Again, I go to the whiteboard. Close all my windows so that they don't show up on the record. Okay. Let me share that whiteboard again. All right. So what I was explaining last week, is my audio very clear this time? Okay. So what I was explaining is, I'm kind of explaining the same concept because the audio was not good last week. Okay. So if I call this entity as God, right? So this God is causeless, nothingness. Many agreed. You will hear this concept pretty much in all religious scriptures. Okay. So there is a very mundane level of understanding God, and there is a very matured level of understanding God. Right? So today what we are talking about is some concept where you can kind of enhance your thinking towards it. And this is not to disprove any concepts or anything. Okay. Or anything what in a general understanding of God is. Right? So spirituality does not conflict with anyone, with any ideas, any beliefs. It explains the science, and it is up to the individuals to accept that science or leave it. So don't, that's why I'm not stressing that this is the truth. There is no truth. There is no wrong. Okay. Okay. So first I'll make this as the sun, right? A sun. So let's call this, forget this is a God right now. This is a sun. And there is a water fountain. The water fountain is emitting this water, right? So on this, the sun is reflecting. So you can see as many the water droplets are there, that many suns it is reflecting. And let's say this reflection on the water creates a rainbow. Even you see when there is a rain, at a certain angle, when the sun is there, you will see a rainbow in the sky. The same concept. So you will see a rainbow emitting out of this. The sun is not the direct cause for the reflection of itself in this water droplet. The sun has no cause, is not a direct cause for the rainbow. So all this, which is after the sun rays passing through this water droplet, creating a rainbow, is the all manifestation here. And the concept here is the rainbow and the water droplet is ephemeral. Ephemeral means short-lived. Okay. It is not permanent. From the comparison, again, we are taking the physical world concepts. Everything is temporal in the physical world. Even the sun is temporal at certain time scale, correct? But just to explain the concept, let's assume, compare it to the water droplet and rainbow, there is certain permanence, continuity of the sun existence. So this is permanent, this is temporal. So anything temporal, that's why this is temporal and not real, or whatever the sun reflection and rainbow is not real. It's a mere causation. The causation starts from here. Because the water droplet reflected in the sun, because of that there is a rainbow. So there is a cause and effect. The cause and effect starts within this box. Cause and effect. Okay. This is cause and effect. But there is no cause here. There is no causation here. Now, if I flip this with the God, what happens is this is God, and something reflected this existence of God here. Something we don't know. We might call it consciousness. Is reflecting this God, consciousness. And this manifested the entire existence. So the consciousness or awareness is the result of manifestation. All existence manifested from this state. So here, God is not a direct cause, neither for consciousness nor for the entire existence. Here, we are calling it consciousness now, but if you really think of it, something reflected. And Babaji called it, there is some vibration, some stir happened, and the stir caused, a movement caused this creation. You got it. So there is no causation here. And there is no causation here. So God is, you cannot say God is the cause. You cannot say God is not the cause. Because the concept of causation does not exist here. Okay. But so now this entire thing is a mere reflection, ephemeral, short-lived, right? This is a mere reflection. And lack of the better word, in Indian scriptures, they term this as an illusion or Maya. So this entire existence is an illusion, short-lived, not real. Okay. So now, then what is the role of this entity here? All that we understand as God is this God, this entity. We understand this entity as God. Now, even this entire manifestation has no idea, concept of even this God. So the God within nature. So this whole entire box, you can now call it as nature. And this essence of God is all pervading the nature because it is reflecting it as a mere reflection, not as real. Okay. So you call this entire thing as nature. In Sanskrit, this is called the Prakriti. So whenever we are referring to a nature, we are referring to this existence. So this nature is governed by certain principles and laws. Okay. And we cannot defy those principles. But what happened is the human who has access to this consciousness, because human awareness is a lot more than any existence in this, at least from what we know so far. I mean, there are aliens probably who are more aware, but at least from a human standpoint, from a human context or earthly existence, human is the highest being who understood this state, the God within the nature, who accessed God within the nature. So that's where the whole the pantheon of hierarchy of the masters come into the picture. Like Jesus was the master. I mean, you can say Jesus was the master, Jesus is the master. So there is a continuity of their existence. So they said, hey, your mind is only oriented to understand this outwardly existence, manifestation, outward manifestation. There is something else you can connect to. They refer to this God within the nature. But by connecting to this, by understanding the nature of this God, by realizing this, what happens is this human consciousness, human mind has a way to escape this box. So when you escape this box, what is known as out of Maya. So you're out of Maya, out of illusionary existence. Then your mind, your consciousness is somewhat relating, identifying with this God. When you identify with this God, basically all this illusionary existence within your mind disappears. You kind of see the reality, the base of all this existence. As you perceive this reality, the base of more existence, and the more and more you identify with this, all the qualities which created by the nature within dissolves, disappears. When it starts to dissolve, the true salvation, the true liberation happens. So then this consciousness, this embodied consciousness, you can call it as embodied soul, doesn't have to re-manifest in this existence. Otherwise, the people are basically stuck in the loop. They're going in the same loop again and again, the same problems, families, same thing. So this is another thing I want to kind of say, please again, don't misunderstand me for saying this. All these masters who came into existence, Jesus, everybody, they were trying to tell you there is something beyond. But we are caught up in this problem so much, in this loop so much. What we are doing is we are asking them to help us with this loop. When they're asking us to get out of this loop, we are going to them again, hey, help us with this loop. This loop is our creation. In your creation, you are the God. Who should help your creation? You see, who should help your creation? If you are the God of your creation, you should help your creation, correct? And we are expecting the God to help us with our creation.
So you're saying you can't, it doesn't work. They can't help you with your creation. Only you could help with your creation. In other words, to get out.
Exactly.
But then how does guidance from Daji or whoever help you get from your circle loop out of the box?
So that's why they've given you the method. That's why they're telling you clean all your impressions so that you are out of your loop.
Yeah, but still, then how do they provide guidance? I mean, based on what you said, I don't need anyone. All I have to do is do the practice.
I did not say all. Then I kind of emphasize the role of the master here, correct? That's why I'm kind of bringing this example of a master.
So you're saying that they can't help you until you extend beyond your loop.
Correct. So the role of the master actually, in fact, becomes more and more as you exit out of the loop. Because there is a tendency for everyone to think, with few meditations, they think they already exited the loop. It gives that feeling because of the transmission, you have that experience. But not truly. Reason, there is so much engagement with this loop in our life. We're totally engaged with this loop. And this loop became our identity. That identity is called ego. This loop became our identity. It's very, very difficult for us, this ego, to identify with this, the God within the nature and God outside the nature.
So then how do I know I broke outside the loop?
So that's why it's a continuously dissolving more and more. It's a dissolution. Spiritual practice is all about dissolution. You're going into that more and more and more until this loop is broken. When it's broken, you know it. When it's broken, all your the reactionary, what you call, elements to this nature, this manifestation, your relationships, your work, your everything kind of changes completely.
So is that what is referred to generally as enlightenment?
Yes. So enlightenment is a state of mind. So your state of mind, your state of consciousness, the way things you perceive, everything changes. It doesn't make us geniuses. It doesn't make us, somebody who is expert into to deal with this loop or life. Because we recognize this life as short-lived, we are looking for something permanence. So all the drive within so far is happening to recognize this ultimate essence. But we are thinking, okay, to satisfy the drive, we are engaged in so many things. And mostly the mind is always engaged in some kind of an entertainment and pleasure seeking reason. It thinks it can find this peace which is available by connecting to this higher essence. It is always in search of that higher peace, that higher bliss. Bliss is actually synonymous to the peace. So we are going more and more deep inside.
Well, then it would seem to me that if you ever reach that state, then you want to leave the rest of life, the reality of everyday living behind you, because you discovered something better.
Of course. Of course.
So,
But for your physical survival, this physical existence also becomes important until we live. We have to survive as an animal being, right? We have to have that food and shelter. I cannot say everything is so I have to work in that scenario. What happens is I have to work from this existential context, which is real as well, from an existential context, and from a godly context. I have to kind of balance between the two. And that balance is very much necessary. I cannot completely ignore everything and calling this as an illusion, because you are still in the physical context.
Although, at
But
least in the Catholic sect,
huh?
I had friends who were, who had gone through a monastery and things like that, and they said, just say God will provide. And even though they take a vow of poverty, they say, isn't that really poverty? Because people give you give you all these things.
Yeah, I mean, so if I'm an enlightened person, either I can live in poverty and I can become rich if I can gather 10 people. So, but that is not a real enlightenment. Again, there is some attraction. So a real enlightened person, duty is only to pass on that enlightenment. It's not about the money they collect. So that's why I'm saying you have to balance between the two, your physical existence and this higher essence within, the identity with the higher essence within. So once that identity is shifting, we always work as a third person. That means we witness our life. That's when the witnessing of the life comes into existence. Until then, you are an active participant. But once you are connected with this higher essence, identified with this higher essence, we slowly witness everything which is happening around us and within us and with us. So there is this witness element comes into the picture. So there is so many changes we observe as this happens. Otherwise, I was trying to make this statement again, don't misunderstand. I'm not trying to undefy any concepts. Because I am in this loop, because I cannot escape, I have to blame it on somebody. So this mind has created something opposite of God, and we called it devil. Devil is truly stuck in this loop. Once I'm out of this loop, there is no devil. That's why Jesus, when the devil is tempted him, I mean, where is the devil? There is no devil from outside, within. There was a temptation. Okay. And then, how do you get out of that temptation? Like Jesus said, my kingdom is not here. My kingdom is here, somewhere outside this illusionary existence. Then what we did, we go for him. We go to him again to solve the problems within this loop. Give me money, give me promotions, give me this, give me that, give me all the richnesses.
So then if you reach this state where you identify with the divine entity, you're outside the loop, okay?
Yeah.
Then at that point, you really don't care about everyday life as that much, other than for what you need for shelter and food.
Correct.
So I would call that retirement.
I mean, you would call it retirement because you already have enough to manage. But what if you don't have enough to manage this existence? So that's why to provide yourself enough to manage this life is also becomes essential. Otherwise, what happens is the physical needs are there. When the physical needs are not fulfilled, again you are drawn back into this loop, how much ever enlightened you are.
Well, as you read in the paper and such, there's a large movement of people saying, I want to retire at age 40, I want to retire at age 50. And I met some of those people, and yes, they are financially stable, they can meet, but they're still looking for purpose in their life.
But have they, I mean, if they're looking for a purpose in life, great. But if they're not, they're still stuck in this loop. Okay, their retirement is now kind of looking towards the, the pleasures of the life and, spending their money in whatever. If they're looking for an inner evolution, that's a different thing. So that's why all spiritual practicants, in essence, are all retired. I'll tell you, unless you create more time in your life, you cannot really engage with the spiritual practice. If you're caught up in this world so much that I'm spending all my 24 hours, there is no spirituality. So that's why we kind of, the heartfulness gives us this essence of that ultimate condition in our every meditation we do, so that we carry that condition and we work through that condition. We attend to this world through that condition, so that my engagement with this world also becomes spiritual pursuit. I become a witness. And this is happening with heartfulness from the day one, which is otherwise is not possible with any other methods. Because of that transmission, the yogic energy, we are able to experience that ultimate state within us, so that we can carry that state into this world and become a mere witness to everything I do. See, with how much peace you are attending to this world. Imagine that. So otherwise, I mean, people who are talking about this illusionary existence as a mere way of escaping. Oh, Maya. What is Maya? What is illusion? In the night, in the dark, you look at the rope and you imagine it to be a snake. These mundane examples basically kill the concept of idea of getting out of this, unless I realize how I can get out of it. Okay. So it is very, 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 very important to understand this and work towards this. Work towards escaping out of this loop. It is not for the escaping out of this loop is the goal, but realizing this inner essence is the goal. And becoming a mere witness is the goal.
Now, people who've experimented or taken drugs, alcohol, are they going outside this loop, or are they still staying inside this loop?
I mean, it's not possible. You cannot enhance your consciousness by subsiding or by, what do you say, suppressing your mind's tendencies. Your mind's tendencies have to be regulated in such a way so that it wants to, it realizes the need of this inner essence.
So
Taking drugs is only a temporary lull. You are keeping the mind into a state of a thoughtless state, but that doesn't mean it's a higher existence. In a higher existence, you are thoughtful, at the same time you are thoughtless.
Well, the early research with LSD said the researchers claim that opened different parts of your mind that they could not go beyond in normal reality. So they just had kind of like a discovery of
Right.
beings or states or something like that. They open their mind. At least that's what was claimed.
It's claimed because, I mean, if I am doing something, I want to claim something, right? My ego says, you claim it. Even people who have done meditation for little while, they think they're already enlightened, because the mind is claiming, the ego is claiming. But once we remove all those claims, here in spirituality, no claims, right? We only become, we only experience as we become. Experience is not a good word. So we start living life of the spiritual existence. Otherwise, we are caught in this loop, caught in this rut. How much ever pleasureful this may be, how much ever painful this may be, how much ever suffering there may be. So that's why, I mean, so when these masters, when they start giving this ultimate essence, when people go for mundane things, it gives them a feeling that they failed in their teaching. I can go a little deep into it, but I don't want to make any comments. We failed all our, the higher, masters, whom we call them God right now, but we failed them. They want us to teach to get to this essence and go beyond. Not mere emotional attachment to these entities is not enough. Why are we attached to these entities, thinking that they'll solve these problems? But what if they're not ready to solve these problems? Will you still have the same attachment, same devotion, all that stuff? Absolutely not. So that's why we are perceiving to go out. And what alternate methods, mind altering methods, like LSDs and all that stuff, uh, kind of create a temporary lull in the mind and thinking that you have achieved some higher conscious states. But actually, some of them go into their subconscious states. And in the subconscious state is not a higher conscious state. Subconscious state is all the past experiences of life. What is the point in reliving those experiences which we already passed? So at the most, by lulling this mind, keeping this mind thoughtless, you are going into subconscious state, but you are not going into the godly state, which is above subconscious state. So it is not what I think. That's why we need a guide. This is the role of the master. If you tell him, hey, this is what my experience is, I went into this enlightened states, a true master will tell you that's not what it is. A true master will tell you, make you experience that state and say, okay, this is what it should be. And that's not the end. There is more to it. It's always there is more to it, because this is an infinite journey. I don't think anyone can claim that they made it, including Jaji or anyone. So everyone is moving towards this infinite. But they found a method to move towards this infinite, and they found a way to make us experience it. And they're, taking us to more than, the higher states, more than they have reached. It is the ability which comes into them. By grace, you can call it, or whatever you can call it. But their role is only to take you towards this infinite state, not to address your mundane problems.
Well,
Mundane,
then it would seem to me that
yeah.
no one really reaches this state, but why would people continue to do it? It's because they derive a benefit from it that motivates them to continue to do it.
See, again, when we talk about the benefit, we are talking it from a context of existential context. But if you see the benefit from the higher context, you are with the higher and you are merging into the higher. So there is a huge benefit over there. But so whenever we talk about benefit, either we are talking from this mundane, this loop, there the benefits are again short-lived, or you become that higher existence. What is the benefit? If an ant turns into a man and develops that consciousness of a man, what is the benefit to the ant? It is still thinking, I have to collect some small food and keep it for the winter. And that's all the benefit it can think about. So as we go into the higher dimensions, the context of the benefit is also changing. From a lower dimension, when I'm thinking about the benefit, I'm only thinking about how to keep my mind at peace and live happily. That's all the benefit we are looking for at this point. But as this consciousness is growing, the context of benefit is also changing. So even ant, when it wants to become a man, it will think, what is the use of all that capacity when all that I need to collect is a small grain of food and keep it for the winter. My job is done. So this whole higher consciousness is wasted consciousness for an ant. It doesn't benefit. But think of it from a man's context, looking at the ant. Which life is better? Which is appreciating the life more? So the appreciation of life, existence, changes as we go into higher and higher dimensions. There, the appreciation is very different. See, right now, the man's appreciation is stuck between an animal existence and a human existence and a divine existence. These are the three states. But it never had the benefit of experiencing the divine existence. Very few. So now what we are striving from here is get out of the animal existence, go into a human existence, and then into a divine existence. Right? We're almost 8:40. I did not realize it took a little longer. But I hope this helped, at least put some context to this, why we are doing this spiritual practice.